Hi there, everybody, and welcome to today's Art of Procurement podcast. I'm Philip Hydson, the founder and managing director of Art of Procurement. And today's podcast is part of a special 2-week series. It's our second annual sponsored startup and growth series where we aim to shine a light on the early stage and growth companies who are changing the way that leading procurement teams are driving outcomes that truly align with corporate objectives. We'll ask an entrepreneur from 7 different companies questions about what gap in the market their solution addresses, how they differentiate their technology, and what their tools look like in action. It's a great way for you to get to know those who are leading the way. And in today's episode, I speak with Gregg Antenen of Vistio. Unlike the other providers in our series, Vistio is not directly focused on procurement. It's actually a tool that procurement can help our stakeholder use in the call center category. I'll let Gregg share the rest. And I started by asking Gregg if he could introduce himself and introduce Vistio.
My name's Gregg Antenen, and I'm the managing director of Vistio. I guess probably what you need to know about me is I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years, and I've established 4 different startups and grown them into mature solutions. They've all had customer engagement in common and all began by solving a set of challenging problems through the unique combination of technology, process, and methodology.
And so from a Vistio perspective, I wonder if you could just share a little bit about what it is that you do at Vistio.
Yeah, sure. So for Vistio, we leveraged all of our years of experience in customer care and engagement. We built a solution and a methodology over the past 3 years. It's all designed around simplifying and clarifying the context-centric processes.
Mm-hmm. And so as you're looking at that, I wonder if you could just share a little bit, because a lot of the times that we talk to companies in this series, it's around selling things that procurement may need to help procurement themselves. In this case, you talked about it being something where you're helping from a call center, so it's very category specific. I wonder if you could share a little bit about what are those kind of processes that you find within a call center environment that where there's a need to actually bring in some technology to bring efficiencies to the process, but also to bring other benefits to the agents ultimately within the call center environment.
Sure. In fact, the need is almost everywhere. You and I both have a unique experience in the sense that if you sat down with an agent in a call center, right, it doesn't matter any call center, right, it's an extremely challenging job. We can all agree on that. And in fact, sometimes it's the most challenging job in the company. And it really doesn't matter the industry or the line of business. When you sit with them, you hear and see the struggles that agents have in meeting the expectations of the customers. The customers can be very demanding. This isn't due to a shortage of technology, right? In fact, there's often too much technology or too much data. Like they have access to everything. The gap for us and kind of where we play and what we saw as a need is that the vast majority of agents, it's the struggle in getting from the hello to is there anything else I can help you with, right? It's missing a clear process and a contextual assistance. We talk about contextual assistance a lot, which is I need help right now in the midst of this question. I don't need to know all of the data about the customer. I don't need to know all of the processes. I need help in this, right? And we call that contextual, and that's where we focus. But it's not to say that all of these companies and every call center doesn't have process documents or SOPs. In fact, they have tons of them, right? It's not to say that there's not enough of those. It's really to say the technologies like the back office systems, the CRMs, the knowledge bases, they house all kinds of information, but they don't help the agent in getting each step done, right? They're there to interpret the steps, like you give me this piece of information, but it doesn't tell the agent, I need this piece of information right now, right? Or here's the piece of information you need to get your answer, right? And so they're dealing with these highly complex processes that are required to assist the customer. And so we focus on let's simplify and clarify the process of helping the customer.
And so would that be at the stage where, would the would, does it require the agent to come and like listen to the conversation and then perhaps do something on their own to get information in front of them that helps them drive that conversation? Or is it, it's like you're almost listening to the conversation and you can understand and learn what it is that the information the customer is wanting and place that in front of the agent when they need it?
Yeah, just think of it as an assistance, right? So I'm talking to the consumer, and
Yeah.
the consumer says, "Hey, I need this," right? And this is a workflow. It is simply the agent saying, "Okay, I need that," and basically the system puts up in front of them the workflow, the next
Mm-hmm.
step, the next best action, including text and information that they need to have for that question. And it's also automatically taking notes. It's doing all the steps that we want our agents to do when we think about, great quality and great CSAT and great customer experience. It's just taking and assisting the agent to do all of those things that we expect them to do. But when they're in the midst of a challenging phone call, they often forget, or they don't do it exactly the right way, or it changed yesterday, right? I mean, the challenge is call centers and problems for customers are constantly evolving. How do you keep 100, 200, 500 agents constantly evolving with the change? It's almost next to impossible.
So in terms of the experience, both from the agent perspective, but then the customer experience, how does that change their experience of that phone call? Because ultimately, then connecting that with value. Here at Data Procurement, we talk a lot about enabling value and finding ways that we can drive value that go beyond cost savings, that actually start to drive top line revenue or customer satisfaction or whatever it is that's important to that organization. How are you then enabling by leveraging Vistio to increase the like I say, whether it's efficiency, whether it's CX, whether it's growth? Like, what's the how do you best support the agent in doing that?
Yeah, so it's a great point in that either making your agents more faster isn't always kind of the end answer, right? It is actually doing the job correctly. And that's often
Mm-hmm.
the biggest struggle for the agent is knowing how to do the job correctly. And if you do the job correctly, we know that that delivers the right experience for the customer. The customer basically wants two things. It's a accurate answer as quick as possible, right? Don't put me on hold.
Yeah.
Just be confident, tell me the answer, and get it to me as fast as possible, right? And so Vistio is all designed around how do we help that agent do those two things without having to put the person on hold saying, well, hold on while I look that up, right? Because that's what knowledge bases require.
Mm-hmm.
It's what systems that are complex to navigate require. It's really about that process of the agent ought to be able to go step by step, real quick, with answers, with the knowledge that they need right at that point in time, or as we say, contextually.
Mm-hmm. Now, is there, because there'll be a lot of people who are listening to the pod that are responsible for buying call centers as part of their categories from a procurement perspective. And that was actually something I had earlier in my background. We talked about that off mic, actually, of some of the experiences I have in that space. And I just wonder, is there a typical kind of organizational size or call center size or something where what you do is more effective? Like, do you target specifically on whether it's a call center with so many heads or with so much volume or kind of what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, a real base level is 50 seats or more. But what we've really found
Mm-hmm.
is that it really depends on the challenge that the call center or the company is having. And so we've done call centers with 1,000 agents. We've done them with 40 agents. In fact, we have one program that has 7 agents. It's an outbound program, right? And it really depends on the challenge that the call center is having. That will dictate which size makes the most sense, but they can all benefit from it from both an ROI perspective, but also from a CSAT, a quality, a delivery of the service.
Now, when people engage with you for the first time, is there a typical kind of pilot or a proof of concept that you recommend for them to actually to test Vistio? Is it based on a call center, based on even agents within call centers? What's the best way for somebody to think about how they may want to test
Yeah,
Vistio?
it's kind of along our model of we're not just a software solution. We come and we partner with you from the standpoint of let us hear about your problem. We'll bring back to you some recommendations and solutions to that problem, and then that's when we agree to move forward. So, we can do proof of concepts, and we've done them. We know that our solution is working in every vast number of industries, right? So we'll do a proof of concept, but it's not really required. What's really required is that we have an understanding of what problem you're solving for, whether it's just call center metrics or really specific things, and then we'll show you how we'll deliver it. Then you can purchase.
Mm-hmm. So if there is anybody who's listening who would like to learn a little bit more, either connecting with you directly or somebody on your team, where would be the best place for them to go?
Yeah, the best place is our website, vistio.io, vistio.io.
Okay, great. Well, what I'll do is I'll include the links to your website on the show notes page for today's episode. For any listener who would like that, that's if you go to artofprocurement.com/podcast, you're going to find all the podcasts from this series and the show notes. You'll be able to click through and get Vistio's link to go to their webpage, and of course all Gregg's details too. So Gregg, I want to thank you so much for joining me, for sharing a little bit about what you're working on in the call center space, and it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Phil.
Thanks for tuning in to this special Startup and Growth series. To listen to the entire series and for the show notes page that accompanies each episode, please go to artofprocurement.com/startup series. That's artofprocurement.com/startup series.